Brazil has the global superstars. They have the lineage. They have the most decorated manager in Champions League history holding the cripboard. Yet right now, on the world stage, they look completely toothless. A stagnant 1-1 choke against Morocco, a desperate, scrambling late 2-1 survival act against Japan in the round of 32. This isn't the Joga Bonita we were promised for the summer of 2026. But the mainstream media is completely misdiagnosing the disease. They'll tell you Brazil's front line is underperforming. They're wrong. The structural collapse of this team didn't happen during the tournament. It happened on April 18th in London, when Estêvão Willian tore his hamstring off the bone. Brazil's entire tactical blueprint for the next decade vanished into thin air. He's the $70 million ghost haunting their World Cup run, the one player built explicitly to break the tactical trap they are currently suffocating in. Here is the brutal reality of modern international football. If you try to press Brazil high or trade punches with them in open transition, you're committing tactical suicide. Vinicius, Rodrigo, and Rafinha will expose your high line and destroy you in 4 seconds flat. So every single manager in this tournament has agreed on the exact same antidote. Drop all 10 outfield men behind the ball. Eliminate the space behind the backline. Dare Brazil to break down a brick wall from a dead stop. Against Morocco, the wall held. Against Japan, it required a late, chaotic miracle just to avoid disaster. This is where the tactical trap snaps shut. Modern low blocks don't care about elite top-end speed. Pace is completely useless if there's 0 yards to run into. To shatter a compact back five, you don't need a sprinter. You need a structural anomaly, someone who creates space out of absolute nothing, operating inside a phone booth against 3 defenders who already know exactly what he wants to do. That specific, ultra-rare toolkit is exactly what Carlo Ancelotti built his entire offensive machine around, and right now, it's trapped inside a treatment room in London. They called him Messinho during his rise through the youth ranks, and it wasn't just cheap hype, it was a description of his gravity. Traditional wingers rely on a 40-yard runway to beat a fullback. Estêvão doesn't. He manipulates inertia. He slows the game down, shifts his weight by 2 inches, sells a shoulder feint, and manufactures half a yard of space from a complete standstill. In a low block, half a yard is the only currency that matters. The data proves this isn't just an academy wonder kid. In his final breakout season at Palmeiras, he racked up 13 goals and 9 assists in the league, while tearing up the Copa Libertadores. He was executing elite end product against hardened, brutal South American defenses at an age when most European prospects are still playing in youth groups. And then came September 4th, 2025, a tense World Cup qualifier against Chile. Estêvão pulls off an unphysics-defying overhead kick to open his senior account. In that exact second, he became the youngest competitive goal scorer for Brazil since Pelé in 1958. Let that sink in. Not a media-manufactured comparison, a verified historical milestone. When Estêvão operates on the right flank, tactical shapes dissolve. Opposing center backs are forced to abandon their zones just to prevent him from cutting inside. That structural panic is the entire secret. The moment a defender steps out to confront Estêvão, the low block cracks open, leaving a massive gap for Vinicius or Rodrigo to exploit. He isn't just a winger, he is a walking tactical cheat code. Let's look at the cold numbers, because they paint a terrifying picture for Brazil fans. Chelsea secured his signature for a fixed fee of roughly $38 million, with aggressive add-ons that push the absolute ceiling of the deal to $70 million. For a teenager adapting to the physical meat grinder of the Premier League, his debut campaign was sensational, 8 goals and 36 appearances. But his impact on the national team was even more definitive. Under Carlo Ancelotti, Estêvão scored 5 goals in just 7 senior caps. Read between the lines. At the exact moment his season was cut short in April, Estêvão Willian was not just a luxury option off the bench. He was the undisputed top scorer of the Ancelotti era. ahead of Rodrigo, ahead of Rafinha, ahead of Vinicius Jr. Brazil didn't just lose a wonder kid, they lost their primary offensive engine. And the curse of this injury cuts across 2 continents. Chelsea felt the exact same sudden tactical paralysis. The moment Estêvão went down, the Blues' front line lost its predictability breaker. They dropped the FA Cup final to Manchester City, stumbled heavily in the league, and completely missed out on European football. 2 elite squads, thousands of miles apart, completely derailed because nobody else on either roster can replicate what this kid does from a standstill. So where does that leave Ancelotti now? The group stage was an ugly, grinding warning sign. Victories over Haiti and Scotland look comfortable on a scoreboard, but the tape reveals a side that is deeply laboring to manufacture clean looks against low blocks. The round of 32 win over Japan was an identical copy of the script, statistically dominant, visually agonizing, rescued by a late piece of individual desperation. Here is the grim reality for the Seleção. From this point forward, the low blocks are only going to get tighter, more disciplined, and completely unforgiving. Every single manager left in the bracket has watched the Morocco and Japan tape. They know the formula to stifle this attack. Without that dynamic release valve on the right wing, Ancelotti can no longer break teams down systematically. He has to pray for defensive errors, set-piece variants, or isolated moments of individual brilliance from players who simply aren't engineered for this specific job. Brazil possesses more than enough raw talent to lift the trophy, but every single round from here to the final is a brutal psychological test of whether they can collectively manufacture what a 19-year-old sitting in a London rehabilitation clinic was supposed to do entirely by himself. Football at this level is incredibly cruel. Sometimes the fix to a systemic tactical crisis isn't an adjustment on a whiteboard, it's a highly specific human being. You either have him on the field or you don't. And right now, Brazil doesn't. And that massive vacancy is going to define their entire destiny. If you want a tactical breakdown of Brazil's next knockout opponent and exactly how they plan to exploit this structural flaw, that video is dropping next. Hit subscribe so you don't miss it.